and welcome back to The Give and Go. I'm your coach, Reynoso, my boy.
Soltero, what's up, y'all?
Folks, we got a fun segment for you guys. We're going to be answering some of your Q&A. We submitted a community post a few days ago where I asked you guys to give us questions to answer, and we got some fun inquiries from the Give and Go viewers. So to start, I'm actually sorting by what's the most thumbs up comment right now.
Oh, fun.
And the most thumbs up is from KVNADOR, Kivanador, saying, I need an Atleti segment. Talk about Giuliano and Simeone, 700th game. Need more Atleti support. Tell them why we haven't been talking about them.
This is a tough timing for this one, man, because if you've been watching the episodes for the last 3 months, you've seen my spirit for Atleti just die. You've seen it die. I mean, we're getting outplayed against Real Betis, who just lost to Valencia this past weekend, bro. It's been really tough for me to see this Atleti team these past couple of months. Our game against PSG, even though we won, was just so tough to watch because we had 20% of the ball. It's just been really, really tough to watch Atletico play this season. Conor Gallagher has been interesting. He's trying out there. Same with Julian Alvarez. They're all giving their best, but the football is it's just not there, man. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Atletico's for sure a top 3 side, but in La Liga, I just don't think that means a lot. You know, I really don't think that means a lot. And we're seeing that play out in the Champions League where we get outplayed in almost every match, man. I mean, we lost, 4-0 to Benfica? That's very concerning. So my hopes are very, very low right now on Atleti. Obviously, it's still my favorite club, still my favorite team in the world. I will watch and support them every single week. But from a perspective of getting anything out of this season, it's already done and it's November, bro. Yep. We're not going to win the Copa del Rey. We're not going to win La Liga. We're not going to go deep in the Champions League. There's nothing to look forward to. Griezmann, we need to start phasing him out as there's rumors that he's going to go to the MLS. Is he going to go in January? Is he going to go at the end of the season? There's so much uncertainty right now. Just our level of play isn't anywhere close to where it needs to be if we want to compete with Barcelona and Real Madrid, man. So yeah, my energy is really, really down right now with Atleti. So that's why I'm sorry that, this is the answer I give you right now. But it's just bad timing, bro. There's nothing else I can say. For Giuliano Simeone, I mean, fun. Sure, fun. I think it's more of a case of the state right now is that, if Giuliano Simeone is one of our more bright players, I actually think that's a problem. Nah. I really do think that's a problem because at the end of the day, I really think we should have better players in that position. I'm not going to lie. Simeone's a live wire. He's great. But I just would rather have a more talented player in the long run, But our scouting has been a little sketchy over the last couple of seasons. It's not really working. So yeah, I'm not too excited about that. And for Diego Simeone, man, 700 games, insane.
And
I've always said this. I do not care how low we go. If we go to the second division, if Diego Simeone is still the coach, I will support him till the day that I die. I do not care. He could coach Atletico for the next 40 years into his 80s. I have no problem with him being the head of Atletico until the end of time. Damn. I have zero problem for what he's done starting in 2012 and over the last decade, man, for what he's given us. A couple of La Ligas, 2 Champions League finals, a couple of Europa League finals as well, man. Like, come on, bro. I really do not care what anyone has to say about Simeone. Maybe he hasn't managed this side the best that we would have liked him to over these last, maybe 2-3 years, but I do not care. Simeone till I die.
All right. Well, there's your Atleti segment right there. That'll be it for the rest of the season, by the way.
That's it, man. I'm so sorry.
Unless y'all miraculously make it to the round of 16 in the Champions League, we'll have to wait and see. But that's it for now. Let's look at the next question from Hamza. He says, since when did you two become friends, and since when did you decide to create this really cool podcast? Quite a wholesome question right here. We became friends when we were young, through our parents who knew each other in our hometown. And then we played soccer growing up on the same team. Yeah. And then from there, maintain a relationship going into high school, college. And then you sat us down and you said, you know what? I think it's time that we start a podcast and that we share our love for the game. Let's see what we can do with it. And that's kind of how this whole story started.
Yeah, honestly, it is pretty crazy that what I think about a lot is naturally we were just in each other's lives. You know, there was no seeking of like, oh, I want to talk football with somebody. I didn't seek it out. It just happened.
That's true.
And it's kind of crazy whether you call that manifestation, luck, maybe faith. I don't know what you call it. The universe somehow put us both in each other's lives, man. And I literally could not be more thankful or grateful, man, because I mean, I got lucky. I think I'm one of the luckiest people alive to have you and also producer Rudd in my life, because there's been no work to this. We literally just started talking soccer. It was so natural. And I mean, now we've got a really beautiful fan base that I want to keep growing, because talking about football is it is my most favorite thing to do, bro. So let's just keep doing it.
That's facts, man. We'd be talking to a wall, bro, if we have each other. That's what's crazy. It'd be madmen on the streets just shouting out random stuff about Simeone and Griezmann and whatnot, man. It'd be a dark outcome if we didn't have each other to talk football, bro. This had to go out somewhere. So completely echo your thoughts, man. Completely. TLB says, did you guys ever try to go pro for football? Most I can say, man, is I was a victim of the pay-to-play system. All right, I was a victim, man. I was victimized. But in reality, man, I played soccer a lot growing up. I loved it. I still play it now as a goalkeeper and as a forward. But there just comes a time where you kind of have to decide to pursue the sport or to, you know, pursue video production, which is what I ultimately picked around the high school age. And honestly, looking back, I wish I would have continued playing to just see that out, see what my max potential could have been like, to at least get that answer. And so I always wonder a little bit in the back of my mind, like, what would have happened if I had, like, you know, proper training as a young adult, because I played it a lot as a kid and I was pretty good, to be honest. Regardless, if I didn't go learn video production, I don't know if this podcast would have happened.
True.
So it was kind of either one or, like, it just two different outcomes, two different paths. That's the one that ended up being for me. But man, I'll always wonder, man, what could have been. And at the same time, maybe my kid becomes that for me.
There you go. Dude, seriously, I'm not even kidding. Just considering the pathways it is for the U.S., I think you could have gone to college. Okay. I think you would have gotten a scholarship to go play college, which that would have been insane. It would have been insane. Obviously, the ideal pathway is you get picked up when you're a teenager, like Pulisic. You go to USA academies and you go to Europe, right? I don't think you were there, but I think you would have gone. I think you would have gone to college, and from there, honestly, if you had the right coaches. Maybe MLS, bro. I'm not even fucking kidding.
Bro, I've been watching the playoffs and I'm looking at it like, bro, I could have been an end of the roster type of guy, man.
I really do think so, bro. Man. I really think you could have had a pro career.
Yeah. And that'd be fun, man. I'd be in Cincinnati, just 28 years old, 29 years old, just living my life, you know, bills covered, playing soccer, and just fit as fuck. Like, that'd been a happy outcome, man. I would have been happy with that. But yeah, just kind of interesting, the path and the way that U.S. had set up soccer in the past versus how it is now. Like you had mentioned, our hometown got its own team. They have their own youth academy now.
There you go. Yeah.
So if we had that back then, that would have been the way to go through, and who knows where that path would have taken either one of us, man. Your knee might be okay if you had proper health care. Yeah. And actually for me, and actually for me growing up as a kid, my biggest dream was to actually play basketball, man. Dude, I would practice 2-3 hours a day when I was like between the ages of 10 and 14. Obviously, I was on the team in middle school, just, you know, popping off low-key, you know, averaging 7 points a game, some shit like that. But then once I hit high school, then I realized I was like, oh, wait, I'm Mexican. And I'm only going to get 5'7", 5'8" height, bro. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, shit, okay, I got to start thinking about something else. Yeah. I actually stopped playing soccer to focus on basketball when I was, you know, like 12, 13 years old, because it was so fun, man. Basketball was my life for the longest time, so... I mean, I don't know, man. If I could, if I could have grown to, 6 foot, I think I would have had a basketball path. That could have, that also could have been an interesting one. And the fundamentals were there, the want was there, the discipline was there. Just not the physical. Physique. The physique wasn't. It's tough, man. It's tough. Calvin Jones asks, "What are the top 3 teams you guys would like to debut at the 2026 World Cup?" Love this question. Top 3 teams that we want to debut. Georgia.
Oh.
Okay.
Dang. I would love to debut Georgia.
Here comes the second one. Uzbekistan.
Yep.
Okay. Now the third one gets interesting. Third one gets really interesting. Let me think. You got a third one?
So I think we could nominate a couple. Venezuela's never been to a World Cup.
Damn.
They've never been to one. And we saw the fan base in the States that showed up for Venezuela games. Bro, it'd be a goddamn party if Venezuela came to the States in 2026 and had their first World Cup ever. It'd be ridiculous, man.
No, that sucks.
But then there's also Jordan, man.
Oh.
And I'm a big Jordani fan, brother.
Yeah.
They have some of my favorite offensive players who the world has never seen before, man. Altamari is low-key in France, right? The watcher of League One will know him. Outside of that, bro, they don't know Almardi. You know, they don't know Yazan Al Naima. They don't know my boy Ali Olwan.
No.
They don't know my boy Nasib Al Arab at the back. They don't know these players, bro. And I would love to personally have Jordan make their first World Cup.
That's a good one. No, that's a good shout because they haven't been there. And I'm thinking about teams, like I was going to say El Salvador, but they have been at the World Cup.
Yeah.
I was going to say Iraq, but they have been at the World Cup. Jordan has never had that experience. That trajectory is there. That excitement is there. I think that rounds out a good three right there. Yeah. Georgia, Jordan, and Uzbekistan would be the top three picks for who we'd like to debut at the 2026 World Cup. Oh, this one's actually really interesting. On the same topic of World Cups, Tanner Wilson asks, should continental tournament champions such as the Euros, Copa America, AFCON, etc., should the champions of those tournaments automatically qualify for the World Cup?
Dang.
So teams like Ivory Coast and Qatar would already be in, whereas Spain and Argentina also get automatic qualification.
I'd be down. This is interesting.
Because what I don't like is you remove them out of the World Cup qualifying process, despite not being hosts, and suddenly we have a Conmebol, World Cup qualifying campaign with no Argentina matches. We got Euro qualifiers with no Spain matches. I don't know. I personally think that the reward of winning those tournaments is enough. I've never felt like those teams have wanted more after having won it. So I think that's more than enough to have in the moment. I don't think I want to give automatic qualification, especially since those tournaments usually happen 2-3 years out from the actual tournament as well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I think that explanation right there is why we shouldn't do that. Also, if you take into the fact that like Gold Cups every 2 years, and we see some whack teams go to these things. Like the USA sends their C team sometimes, Mexico sends their B team sometimes, and then AFCON every 2 years also. It's just like, if they had it once every 4 years and it really meant something in CONCACAF and Africa, I'd be maybe a little bit more down, but the scheduling of those two, I'm definitely not down for it.
Yeah, it's tough, man, but I think that's the answer for you. Prop Hat Top No ask, what's your opinion on Ronaldo's new guest on his YouTube channel, as it was revealed that it was MrBeast this past weekend, but then also rumors, conversations of will he ever have Messi on his channel? Let's talk Ronaldo's channel, man. We haven't mentioned that on the pod yet. Ronaldo's starting off a YouTube channel, CR7, and already at 70 million subscribers. The most subscribed channel is MrBeast with around 330 million. Is there any chance that Ronaldo will someday surpass MrBeast and one day host Messi on his show?
I just wonder what the channel is going to pump out content-wise for the next, 5 years, Having guests and stuff like that, really cool. I actually haven't seen any of the videos, to be completely honest. So I don't know, what really they're producing.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, just given the icon that Cristiano Ronaldo is, I mean, the sky's the limit, bro. I think they could go as high as the world wants them to, man. So,
because I think about MrBeast having 330 million, but outside of YouTube not being known. He's known now because of his YouTube, but before he was on YouTube, nobody knew him.
Yeah.
Ronaldo's the opposite. He's possibly the most famous man in the world, I would say, or at least top 5. And is starting up a YouTube channel with so much of that backing financially and popularity wise. Who's to say that he can't be the most subscribed channel on all of YouTube? He's already, I think, the most followed person on Instagram. So it'd be crazy if Ronaldo ends up becoming the GOAT of football, potentially, and the GOAT of YouTube as well.
Yeah, that actually would be crazy, man. And I wonder, once he retires, is he gonna have that as a main thing he does, or is it gonna be like every now and I just wonder. I'm curious.
Yeah, I wonder. I will do this as the last question from Gaming and Football Live. He says, what is the most underrated league in the world, and what's the most overrated league in the world? I gotta think about this.
Oh man, I would have to really dive into the attributes of each league and then low-key score each attribute, maybe get an average, because I think there's a lot of things that could make a league underrated, right? I think competitiveness is one. I think style of play is another. Atmosphere also comes into play that could make leagues a lot better than they seem. So, because like, for example, I think you could nominate the Brazilian or Argentine league as very underrated. The Argentine league, obviously, just they nonstop produce some of the best talent out there. And at any given point in time, they have arguably one of the best teams in the Americas. And I think that just makes it underrated. I don't think... You also look at Argentina, though. It's poor, man. The league is poor. There's not a lot of money in it. And I definitely think that dampers it, right? Yeah. Whereas you look at Brazil, the probably one of the richer leagues in the Americas. They have state-of-the-art stadiums. Obviously, their fan bases rival that of Argentina. And the level of play is elite. Yeah. You know, from a Latino American perspective, it's elite. Does that make it underrated? Is it right at where it should be? There's a lot. Yeah. You can go to Japan. You know, the style of play in Japan is so fun to watch. It's proper football. It's as close to European football as you get, but the offenses aren't as exciting. You know, so how do you rate that? I think you can nominate a lot of leagues here.
Overrated? I'm saying La Liga. I think La Liga is overrated. When you compare it to, well, rather, when you look at how it's talked about, people talk about it as if it's the second best league in the world. It's not when you look at it on paper. It's more so 3 or 4. But people talk about it as being right there with the Premier League. And so when I compare the two, I look at how the Premier League has big matches every single weekend. Man U, Tottenham, Liverpool, Manchester City, Villa versus Arsenal, Brighton versus Nottingham. You got every week there's 2, sometimes even 3 or 4 big matches that are just must-watch TV. When you look at La Liga, bro, there really is no big match outside of Barcelona, Real Madrid.
That's it.
There isn't, man. Maybe if they're playing a good Atleti team that year, you get another mixture. But if we're talking about big games, if you're not a Barca or Real Madrid fan, a big game that you can tune into just because it's 5th place versus 3rd place, 2nd versus 4th, doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. And so it's so top heavy that I think it gets overrated because the 2 top teams are very good and are often competing in the Champions League. But beyond that, from a league perspective, I really don't think it's that fascinating when you compare it to other leagues like the Bundesliga, like Serie A, who's in a crazy title race right now, or even sometimes the French league, honestly, man. So I actually am going to nominate La Liga as being overrated. And underrated is a tougher conversation. I guess I want to say Liga MX. I think if you really invest yourself in Liga MX for just a season, you will be happy with what you get at the end of the year, because it's just drama. It's chaos. Fun. It's fun, good talent. It's good football. And the stadiums are dope. Mexico's a great place. I would say that's a pretty underrated league and the genesis of football, because it doesn't get talked about outside of the Americas.
So true. Like, seriously, it really is just the States and Mexico talking about Liga MX. Definitely a contender for underrated. But, dude, I just got to add on to the overrated of La Liga, man. I think what really hurts it is no teams are consistent outside of Barcelona, Madrid, and sometimes Atleti. Because what makes the Premier League really interesting is out of nowhere, Brighton will start winning 4 or 5 games in a row. And then they'll have Manchester City in the schedule. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe Brighton can actually win. You know? Whereas in Spain, Villarreal will win 2 games and then lose 3. And then they'll play Barcelona next year, and you're like, I don't know if they're going to show up or not. You just don't know. The consistency is just so poor in Spain. Real Betis is a perfect example. One week they're outplaying Atletico, making them look like a lower league side, and then they're losing to Valencia, the worst team in the league, 4-2. It just, there's zero consistency. It's very rare for a team outside of the top 2 in Spain to win 3 in a row. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I also think what hurts La Liga a lot is the lack of knowledge regarding the history of clubs that isn't Real Madrid or Barcelona, because honestly, when it comes to getting eyes to watch a league, most people that watch it are there for the jokes, for the banter.
Sure.
And the Premier League feeds into that. Everybody knows that Tottenham is cursed. Tottenham doesn't win. Everybody knows that Arsenal fans are way too optimistic and haven't won anything real since 2002 and Thierry Henry. They know about Manchester United and their glory days. They know about Liverpool and how long they went without winning a league before 2019 and what they represent. They know about Manchester City, oil money. Like, the banter is just given to you. The material is right in your face. Whereas with La Liga, I don't know where to really pinpoint what's the thing that makes Villarreal or Athletic Bilbao, unless you obviously dive deep into those teams and you do your own research. But when it comes to, on the surface, getting entertained through what I think is a big aspect of a lot of casual viewers, which is the jokes, which is the banter, which is the fun of it, I don't think La Liga offers that much outside of Barca and Real Madrid and what we know about those two teams. They've almost had so much glory that they've taken history away from these other smaller squads, man.
Dude, actually, that's actually an amazing point, because you look at the Premier League, and even though it still is like the same teams winning it, the teams that lose and don't win the Premier League are consistent in their identities. As you just said, Tottenham are serial losers, but they're exciting to watch.
But they're good, though.
Right?
Yeah,
So every year they have great play, but it never amounts to anything.
Yeah.
But that's every year. So they have an identity of that, which is crazy. Brighton have made an identity to be insane scouts. And the talent that they get and collect is unparalleled. That's their identity, is young, exciting talent. You go to La Liga, Villarreal got relegated after a year there in the Champions League one time.
Damn.
Isn't that crazy? The volatility is so aggressive that they can't form identities. There was one year, recently, they made it to the semifinals in the Champions League. What did they do the next year? Jack shit. There's no identity in Spain. There's no consistency year to year on a team to develop who they are. Girona is a perfect example. Again, last year they're almost Brighton-esque in the sense that they brought together some really young, exciting talent. This year, there's none of that to be found. Absolutely none of that. So there's no year-to-year consistency between clubs' identities. And yeah, that goes beyond just talent and level of play in La Liga. It's almost like inherent into the league that there's no identity outside of Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah, it's tough to market too. I feel like the Premier League leaned into the idea of the top six, and it plays into it. The fact that those teams rarely get relegated. They're always there. They're always dramatic. There's always something to watch about them. La Liga just doesn't have that same marketability, and the league is just too, like you said, volatile to welcome teams like that. So that's the biggest difference right there, is that I think Premier League does it right because they sell their teams well to the casual viewers, with La Liga really only sells Barca and Real Madrid. And the thing is, it is enough to get eyes because those teams are so big. Folks, thank you for asking questions in our community post. We'll be doing more of these as we continue producing more videos for you guys. So make sure to keep up with us. Subscribe to the channel. Ask some more questions down below if you'd like, and we'll be back for another Q&A.